So, this we looked at this M&A. Welcome to this session. We looked at M&A in the last session and how you should go through this. Now, come to evaluation and control process. This evaluation and control process can be viewed as a 5-step model. What are these 5 steps? These 5 steps are mentioned here. So, this evaluation and control 5 steps are mentioned. One is to determine what to measure. What is it that you want to measure? That is the performance measurement. And can be meaning that the processes and results must be capable of being measured in an objective and consistent manner. So, you should be able to measure the performance of an individual. How many units are coming out of the production shop? Suppose a person is engaged in the production of a particular product, how many units is he making at the end of the day? So, when these are tangible enough, sometimes it poses less problems. Sometimes you are evaluating intangibles, let us say R&D. Then how do you determine the performance of these R&D personnel? This is where you get into the realm of applied R&D with respect to industries. What is this applied R&D? Okay, you did lot of research and research work in a particular field. Then when an industry is looking at this R&D, it is looking at it from the prism of translating this R&D into a product which can be put out into the marketplace. So, in this COVID period, lot of R&D happened with respect to these ventilators. So, many came out with their own models of ventilators, because these ventilators were proving to be expensive when they were imported. So, the institute, that is the IAC researchers, also chipped in with their own models, the prototypes of these the ventilators developed for this during this COVID period. So, that also eased this importing of these ventilators. So, this was produced at a very nominal rate in the Indian market. Now, the question that comes is, suppose you are engaged totally in R&D, how do I measure the performance of these R&D people? So, with respect to the industry, they are looking at applied R&D. The second one is to establish performance standards. These specify the measures and acceptable results, that is, they provide a tolerance range. So, they tell you, okay, this is an acceptable range, you go ahead, this can be accepted. So, many of these pharma companies which are operating in the country, they are looking at this applied R&D only to come out with products. So, it was very apparent in the COVID period that the Indian companies came out with their own vaccines. So, whether it was a Covaxin by the Hyderabad company or the Pune company. So, these were done manufactured in India, so that this is easily available compared to the US vaccines at that point of time, that is affordable. Then the actual performance measurement. So, you compare with, okay, you had an objective, then how many units were this during COVID, the production of these vaccines was remarkable by Indian companies to cater to a population of nearly 130 crores. It is not a small job, and the Indian companies stood to this task. They came out with these vaccines. Comparison of actual with standard. The last point is taking corrective action. This becomes necessary when the actual results are outside the tolerance range. Before acting, the manager has to ensure whether the deviation is due to chance fluctuation and whether the process is correct and appropriate. So, this is the 5-step model which you adopt for evaluation and control. Okay. Now, there are some problems in measurement which of performance which you come across. Suppose it is a short term orientation, high return on investment in short term. So, suppose that happens, what is going to happen in that? So, if you see, you want a high return on investment in short term, then performance measurement becomes a real issue. How do you really have to measure the performance in a short term? A reasonable long term would be to look at 1 to 3 years. That is also the goal of strategic management, kindly note that. So, when you are looking at performance also, though IT companies are looking at quarterly performance. So, they give results by first quarter, second quarter, third quarter like that, but still a good measure of performance gives some leeway to the employee also. What is the performance in this particular year? Has it improved over the previous year? All those types of things with respect to the portfolios as well. So, this is this can be one of the problem areas in a short term orientation. The other is goal displacement, refers to the confusion of means with end, occurs when activities intended to help managers achieve corporate objectives become ends in themselves or are adapted to meet ends other than those for which they are intended. So, what is it trying to tell you? When the objectives are not clear, you get into these goal displacement problems. You wanted to come out with a smart telephone instrument. A smart telephone instrument does not mean you compromise with the attributes. You in fact, if smart does not mean that the earlier attributes of the product are compromised in any manner. In fact, if possible, further attributes are added to make the product more acceptable in the marketplace. So, this is what happened with respect to telephones in the 80s, when they came out with electronic telephones, end 80s actually, instead of the mechanical telephones. So, this goal displacement can be of two types. One is the behavior substitution and sub-optimization. What is this behavior substitution? Refers to a phenomenon where activities that do not lead to a goal accomplishment are substituted for activities that lead to goal accomplishment In other words, the wrong activities and people who focused on these activities are being rewarded. Many times happening in the Indian scenario, you are rewarding the wrong person, saying that he did a great job. Example is look at this fuel crisis. There was a demand some 2 decades back by sugar companies, especially operating in the old Mysore belt in Karnataka. They said they are not able to crush the cane, that is the sugar cane, throughout the year. This was leading to labor problems, that is they are not able to engage the labor throughout the year. That is they are not able, they were having problems of disbursement of wages throughout the year. Without production, how can wages be disbursed? This was one of the questions. And at a more macro level, they were looking at the survival of the sugar industry itself. What is going to happen if sugar cane is not available in the required quantity for crushing? What should we do? So, I happen to be a part of this team which went into this problem, did considerable research on this with the help of the Federation of Karnataka Chambers of Commerce and Industry. So, what was coming out of this sugar industry as a byproduct? The byproduct that was coming out was the molasses. What was suggested to the sugar industry was, why not make use of this molasses to produce ethanol? So, the same production line will be operable and this labor force can be used throughout the year, and you are making use of the waste product of the sugar industry, that is to come out with using this molasses to come out with ethanol. The next identified use of this ethanol was to mix it with petrol. Whether it can be mixed with petrol and you can operate the cars using this product, that is this was done in the year 2000 only. So, in fact, an ambassador car was driven from this city Mandya to Bangalore to demonstrate that engine is not getting greatly affected. So, it went through so many other tests, so for the engine and all that. Now, when the fuel crisis has become so acute in 2020, or that is 2 decades later, what is happening? What is the steps which are taken by the government? The steps that are taken by the government, that is the oil companies, they have put out that the petrol or the fuel which is coming out from the petrol bunks is mixed with 10% ethanol. So, it is leading, it is resulting in a huge foreign exchange saving to the government, and it is also helping the sugar industries. So, this notification by the oil companies in 2021 or end of 2021, this made mixing of this ethanol almost mandatory. So, with this in this petrol. So, what you get as petrol or fuel in the petrol bunks today is mixed with 10% ethanol. Now, they are looking at the option of increasing this 10% to 20%. All these wars and all that, they are saying, okay, can it be increased to 20%. So, at that point of time, they were trying to say that this has the potential to save nearly 50,000 crores in foreign exchange. That is, this mixing of ethanol with petrol has the probability or the capability of saving this amount of foreign exchange for the country, potential. So, this is a potential saving that they were expecting for the country, and that resulted in the government taking this step. Many times you wonder why could it not have been taken much earlier, but this is what happens. So, many times you do research, the translation of this research to results may take years. So, this is fortunately I was part of this research for this ethanol, this sugar industry problem which surfaced at that point of time, and then suggested that why not look at ethanol as to be produced by these sugar mills. So, one of the sugar mills which benefited was also the Mandya sugar mill at that point of time. So, this is these are some things which can happen when you are looking at so many goals with respect to organizations. Sometimes organizations might be suffering due to so many problems. So, you are not able to get optimization of results. This optimization of results may lead to suboptimization. This suboptimization is where optimization occurs in one unit or a functional area and to the detriment of the organization as a whole. So, this is these are problems which organizations suffer. Lack of performance, this lack of performance of the sugar mills. So, you find in papers sugar mills going through. So, what is the problem? You have to go to the root of the problem. Where is the problem coming from? Many times you find that the problem is in measurement of performance. So, resulting in suboptimization which is coming in. So, some functional areas are doing very well, some functional areas are not doing well, then all these problems can come up in the whole process. So, this is mentioned in page number 162, designing jobs with the job characteristics model in the book. So, the point that comes out is when you redesign work for better performance, the idea is to have these 5 principles. One, combine tasks to increase task variety and enable workers to identify with what they are doing. Second one, form natural work units to make a worker more responsible and accountable for the performance of the job. Then establish client relationships so the worker will know what performance is required and why. 4. Vertically load the job by giving workers increased authority and responsibility over their activities. And the last one being open feedback channels by providing workers with information on how they are performing. So, all this leads to job enrichment also. So, this is what performance measurement problems can come in this type of organizations, and many times can lead to so many different things. That comes to you with leads you to one aspect. All this strategy which we talked of till now, you should make use of strategy audit to develop benchmarks. So, you used all this, we looked at starting from what is strategy, we looked at how to come out with the IFAS model matrix, the EFAS matrix, then the IFAS matrix, then the SFAS matrix, then the strategic choice, the strategic implementation. Now, all this is done, let us say, then the evaluation and control. One last part of the exercise which organizations should do is to do the strategy audit. That helps them to develop benchmarks. So, what is this benchmarks? This idea of strategy audit is to develop benchmarks. This process involves the following steps: identification of area or process to be examined, usually an activity which can give competitive advantage to a business unit. We are always looking at in strategy to derive competitive advantage. You should get competitive advantage. Then determination of measures of performance of the area or process. Then the competitors against whom the company has to benchmark, against whom are you benchmarking, not against a weak competitor. These have to be generally the best among the industry. Then difference in performance measurement of the company and the best in the class. Kindly note, with respect to a product might be priced very high, that does not mean it is the best in quality. A product might be moderately priced, but still might be very good in quality. So, this happens for a very ordinary ubiquitous product. You find that you take these apples in a mall, you pay very high price. You take these apples from a vendor, a street vendor, you may get it at a much lower price compared to the mall, and still the apple may be quite good. Then to develop tactical program for bridging performance gap, this is what you have to do, whether it is with an industry or any other sector. Even in an education sector, there are bridge schools which are coming in now to bridge the performance gap. So, implementation of programs and comparing the results of new measures with those of best in class. So, these are the important aspects with respect to strategic audit. The point that one has to note is with respect to this whole planning and implementation exercise, the focus should be on critical success factors, that is 20% that determine 80% of the results, that is the Pareto's principle. Control should be directed towards monitoring meaningful activities and results and should be timely. So, controls can be both long term and short term. So, you step in whenever it is required. Controls should help in pinpointing exceptions. There should be emphasis on rewards on meeting or exceeding standards of performance. That is whether you are a PSU or a private sector unit. So, in private sector you are always rewarded for performance. I remember back in the 70s only, Tatas were rewarding their their engineers also for performance. So, sometimes you used to get a small slip, then at that point of time you used to get your salaries to the bank. The banks used they used to identify the bank. So, for example, Tata Consulting Engineers in Bangalore operated from Cunningham Road, and the salaries of the bank employees used to get credited to Canara Bank on the Cunningham Road. Sometimes based on the performance of these young engineers, they used to get a small slip to their table. This I am talking of the period of 70s, kindly note that, saying that you have been given one additional increment, that additional increment was 30 rupees at that point of time. So, this assistant engineer, an young assistant engineer used to be rewarded within 6 months based on his performance. Instead of his getting the annual increment of 30 rupees at the end of the 1 year, he used to get it at the end of 6 months, and a small slip would come to his table saying that he has been rewarded with an additional increment. So, he used to feel very happy that the company has recognized his performance. So, this is what at that point of time this was unheard of in the public sector units. So, many times you used to feel that okay, you perform very well in the public sector or you do not perform well in the public sector, both are treated at the same level. That should not happen, because you are always relating to the marketplace. When you are relating to the marketplace, you should be able to reward performance, achievers, move towards a merit system. So, where the deserving will always get recognition. So, instead of giving what do you call alibis, okay, this happened like this, no, does not work. Why is US always on top with respect to these types of indicators? Because the deserving get the reward. You make, you consider Intel, you consider Cisco, you consider any other company, you find that employees who are performing are rewarded regularly, and the deserving. Now, Google, most of the American companies are headed by Indians, many of them, whether it is Google or Microsoft, they were typically American companies, kindly note that. Now, these deserving Indians have gotten into those positions. So, we also have to move to the scenario where the deserving get the rewards, the deserving get to the position that they are worthy of, okay, not give alibis for not giving them what they deserve. Okay. So, this is what we will stop here. We will continue in the next class. Thank you.